This is the Fantasy Roadshow.
What's up, roadies? How you guys doing today? Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Roadshow with your hosts, Truck and Kulz. And we are joined by a familiar guest by now, Mr. Shane O'Mac. Shane, how you doing?
Doing well. Excited. Week one's coming up.
Week one, baby. We're here. We made it. The football season starts this week. I can't be more excited.
Yeah, I texted Ryan, just huge week. 2 words this morning. Huge week.
Yes.
I'm so excited. Football is finally here. Pretty an entertaining game to start with Chiefs, Lions. 2, high scoring offenses. Some pretty good games. I think Dolphins, Chargers is one that I'm probably most excited about. Obviously, Bears, Packers is always fun to watch. Cowboys, Giants, both of our teams, both of our teams. I was telling Ryan when we went through our picks episode, I love watching Cowboys, Giants. Cowboys, Giants, Eagles, any of those 3, such a fun matchup, usually on prime time. So I'm ready to go for sure.
Yeah. I did forget to mention, everybody follow us on Twitter at fantasy_trucker. Mike is at Kulz_sports. Shane at SMcCormick_FF.
At Fantasy Roadshow.
Yeah, follow the show at Fantasy Roadshow. Check us out on YouTube. Video is up and live, youtube.com/sportsethos, and the Substack. Do not forget the Substack, thefantasyroadshow.substack.com. We are also we have a pick'em pool that's going live this week. We're blasting it out on Twitter. Check us out on Twitter to join the pick'em pool and have some fun with the squad.
Yeah, if you're listening now, this episode will air on Thursday, so it'll launch Thursday at 11 a.m. You'll have 8 hours to get into the pick'em pool, and I'll be blasting that out day of. So Twitter at Fantasy Roadshow, and really any of at Fantasy Roadshow or any of the 3 Twitters below, I'm sure you'll see Thursday, just kind of last chance get in. So I think, Ryan, do you want to introduce the red light green light segment, or do you want to buckle up? Or do you want to back?
Yeah, no. Well, let's buckle up first. How about that? This is gonna get a bumpy ride. All right. So this is an episode we are titling "Red Light, Green Light." For all of you that have played red light, green light as a kid, red light means stop, green light means go. Everybody knows this. It's pretty universal. So basically, this is our start sit episode. We're going to give you players that we are giving you the red light on. Do not start them. They have a tough matchup. The situation is kind of murky. Whatever the reasoning be, we're going to explain our reasoning and then also give you some green light guys, people who are higher up in our weekly rankings for the good matchup, better opportunity, whatever the case may be. These are the players that you should sit or start. So,
I want to. I do. I want to start by giving everyone a green light right off the bat.
Green light on the Celsius.
Oh no!
What do we got? What do we got here? What do you guys got?
Fuji apple pear. That was a really nice moment, guys. Everyone have one ready. Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, that's awesome.
I was going with my my OG, my original flavor, orange, because that was what's left in the fridge.
So. I was gonna text you last night during the LSU game. They had the netting behind the field goals.
I saw that
3 big Celsius cans, and LSU's first field goal, it just nailed the orange emblem in the orange Celsius.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I mean, that had to be a pretty expensive ad for the Celsius to be on.
They're not scared.
Right?
They're not
No.
scared to sling some ad dollars around.
Yeah, hey, bring some our way, Celsius. We're promoting you guys on a daily basis.
The unofficial official beverage of the Fantasy Roadshow, Celsius. But yeah, so red light, green light. It's as Ryan said, our start sit, our love hate. And I think once we, immediately one of the first episodes we had with Shane on as a guest. There is really good chemistry. He brought a lot to the podcast, and I think we can officially announce that Shane is going to be joining us weekly for this segment. So we want to, first of all, he's just a great fantasy mind, fits very well with the pod, and also it's a good way to get more out to the roadies, more of our picks for the week or picks to click, in a segment like this, it's more the merrier, I think, highlighting players each week, why, and getting different perspectives on that. So Shane, thanks a lot for agreeing to join for this segment every week. And we're glad to have you.
Yeah. Love it, man. It's always a ton of fun. And I agree. I think we all know, everybody asking these type of questions like, oh, do I start this? Do I start this? Do I bench this? What do you think about this matchup? Everyone is freaking out about that throughout the week and leading up through Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. And also so Sports Ethos has a Discord channel where you can have access to either any of the three of our brains weekly. So any, start sits that you specifically have, please reach out. I know we'll all be active on Twitter. And then also I'm sure we'll have Shane on. Shane, I don't know if we told you this, but we're going to do Sunday nights. We're going to go live during Sunday Night Football for I don't know, anywhere from an hour to a couple hours and kind of go through our reactions. But also going to have try to eventually figure out a call-in number. But for right now, it'll be just active in the chat during a live reaction segment on Sunday Night Football. I'm sure Shane will be popping in and out whenever he's available. But yeah, we're going to, have guests on and just almost like the Mannings, kind of just do a live watch, but give reactions to the week slate, and then use that as our audio file for Monday's episode.
Yeah, we'll probably end up talking about some college too, for dynasty purposes, who stood out in the college slate and stuff like that. But just kind of shoot the shit. Yeah. Just kind of hang out and watch the game and have people ask questions about a Monday matchup or what happened during the week and what we thought. So absolutely.
It's going to be awesome. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. In terms of driving engagement, that's what we want to do, right? So that's going to be a huge step forward for that.
Yeah, and Shane, on the weeks I can't join, you're my sub in. So just saying.
Got it. I will work on my the Bears accent.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be looking forward to hearing that one. All right, well let's kick it off. Let's talk about red light, green light. Let's start with the quarterback position, one of the most important positions. I'll start it off. I am probably staying away from Daniel Jones versus Dallas. This defense with Dallas is really, really good. I know the Giants wide receivers still kind of aren't up to par. I'm expecting a big game from Saquon, and Darren Waller's going to get his, but I'm hesitant on starting Daniel Jones. If you have other options, I would consider them in this matchup. This Dallas defense looks like a real force to be reckoned with. I know, Shane, how do you feel about the Dallas defense, man? Are they going to stop Daniel Jones?
They look good. And history would support your call there. Last year he was QB 20 both games against Dallas, so it's not a good history. And last year was one of his better years. So I agree. I would be hesitant starting him.
Yeah, that'll be a good game. What is that? Is that Sunday Night Football?
Sunday night.
Hey, join us. Join us.
Yes.
We'll be live. Join us. We'll be live. Sunday Night Football. It's It's also week 1, which it could sometimes get sloppy.
Yeah, good point.
I like the Cowboys' speed to kind of contain him, so I can jump on board with that. Shane, want to give us a red light quarterback?
Yeah. So this one will probably, you guys may have some disagreement with, but mine is Deshaun Watson playing week 1 against Cincinnati. And it's for, a couple of reasons. One, it's hard for me to ignore the preseason. He's been shaky, hasn't, been performing that well. Last year, the Bengals, surprisingly, they were third in the league for passing touchdowns allowed. So I think his line last year was like 270, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. So nothing great, So I could easily see him being kind of in that QB 15 range for the week 18 range. Feels kind of more like a Nick Chubb game to me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Shane. Surprisingly, I have him on my red light list. And it's the hesitancy I have just from the rust we saw at the end of last year. I just don't know if that's fully shaken off. Having a good camp is one thing, but game time, it's the game speed. Like I would be hesitant starting him as well. Even though the Cincinnati right now sleeper has them ranked as the 26th defense to go against the quarterback. So decently favorable matchup by the rankings, but if I have another option, I'm probably going elsewhere. Like, what do you think?
So what was that ranking you just said? Right now they're 26.
Yeah, Sleeper. If you look on Sleeper, what I love about Sleeper is if you look on Sleeper and you go on your team, every player you have their matchup, and then it's colored in either a lighter color or darker color.
Oh, why would that be? So why would they have them as 26 when Shane just gave us a stat of third? They allowed the third least amount of
passing touchdowns. So I think what they're doing is and it's tough to do when you're doing week 1 calls. You kind of rely on last year's defensive stats, but there's personnel changes that each team's make. I'm assuming kind of Sleeper has gone in and factored in some of that maybe into how they're ranking to project for the year.
Yeah, but okay, I don't know. That seems pretty egregious to me. And maybe they give up, one of the top in yards, but when it comes to letting them in the end zone, it doesn't. I don't know. I just find that weird. But anyways, I have Deshaun Watson on my green light. No, I'm kidding. I don't know what to really think of that game. I think it's gonna be a really good game. Honestly, I don't know if I picked the Browns. I could actually look at it right now. I think it's just going to be one of those, I do have the Bengals, but I think it's going to be a close, kind of ugly game. I think the Browns are going to just get ugly some games this year, maybe a lot of games. I don't know. For me, I need to see them play, and I need to become confident in their offense before I really start to ride them. But Burrow, something about it just is a little bit ugly. Burrow not practicing with his calf. Is he going to be limited running the ball at all? I don't know. I just think it's going to be one of those murky week 1 games that are sloppy, and one of the teams wins by a field goal.
Yeah. Burrow isn't even guaranteed to play this matchup. The coach came out and said he has a good plan in place for him to play week 1. I mean, that's not,
Burrow's going to
guarantee. But yeah, I would imagine he is too. But there's a chance, man. If Burrow doesn't play,
Burrow's playing.
Okay,
Burrow's playing. So I have, this will come as no surprise, 2 people on my list is Brock Purdy and Anthony Richardson. First of all, I just think the Steelers are going to win. And in order to do so, they're going to have to get ugly. And I don't know, Purdy's first live game, he looked okay at times during preseason, but I think the Steelers are going to come out and make a statement that they're, I guess, not as bad as everyone thinks they are. They looked good in the preseason. I just think that this is going to be one of those Steelers teams that plays really tough at home. And again, could just be one of those things where it's a defensive battle, low scoring game. And because of that, maybe a couple turnovers. And because of that, Purdy just has a pretty underwhelming fantasy game. And then Richardson, I mean, that's just, to me, Colts Jags is always ugly, especially in Indy. That line's only -5 Jaguars, and I think it should be like 100.
Ooh, wow.
It should be at least 7. Should be at least 7.
To me, like, Jaguars are going to win by a field goal. And again, it's going to be one of those just gross games. So, yeah, I think Richardson's going to be it's going to take him a while to figure it out in general, but week 1, first start against a team that's going to win the division, I think it's going to be ugly for him.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. I mean, I'm not starting Richardson unless I see him put up a big game. Like, until he puts up a big game, he's not in my starting lineup. But I don't have him in any rosters. But
so that's gonna be hard to put him in your starting lineup.
Yeah, if I did, quote unquote, if I did, he wouldn't be in my starting lineup unless I see it happen first. So I get that. And then Purdy too. Go ahead.
Sorry, no, go.
Purdy too. I just, I have a feeling that stardust from last year could wear off, and he may just not perform very well against this Steelers defense. Is pretty good. So,
great. That's line.
So
defensive line. Sorry. I want to mention one more red light I had. Sorry to just rip 3 off right away, but Jimmy G in Denver. Denver's defense is great. Talk about another ugly game. Now that I'm saying it, I just picked like 3 games that I think are going to be like ugly week 1 gritty matchups. But Jimmy G, like, first of all, I'm just turned off by the Raiders offseason, right? Like, that was just rocky all the way through. And then you add in going to Denver with that defense that was actually pretty outstanding last year. You got Surtain. Like, I just think it's going to be a pretty ugly game, like I've been saying for all 3 of these. So those are my 3 that I would fade pretty hard in week 1.
Yeah, and we can, don't be restrained or restricted to just one guy. If you guys have other guys you want to mention, the more guys we bring up for the roadies out there, I think it's the better off. So, Shane, did you have any more on your list, or did we kind of cover all of them?
I think the only one, but I think it's kind of obvious to most people, it'd be Matt Stafford. I don't think Cooper Kupp's playing. It's at Seattle. That's just a rough first opening game for him.
Yeah, very, very good point. Yeah, I would be very hesitant about starting Stafford without Kupp in any matchup, no matter who he's going against. So, all right, well, I'll kick it off for green lights. My green light player of the week is Sam Howell. Obviously, Sam Howell's playing Arizona. They are complete trash. Sam Howell looked good in the preseason, man. He was slinging. He was throwing darts, throwing the ball really hard. And I just think he's going to have a really good game against Arizona. And I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Let's also say that not only are they complete trash, they are just openly tanking.
Yes.
Let's just say openly tanking is what we're going to say.
Can you just imagine a world where next year they get Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. because they've also got Houston's pick?
Yeah, that would be insane. So I'm sure that's what they're going for, And you're going to see on a weekly basis, roadies out there, you're going to see whoever's playing Arizona, their quarterback is most likely going to be on our green light list. So if your quarterback is playing Arizona, play them. Do not question anything about that matchup. Arizona is the team to go against for quarterbacks and basically for running backs and wide receivers too. So,
yeah, I'm not going to have anything to add. I mean, for me, it's just going to always go back to they're playing the Cardinals. So that's all I really have to say there.
Yeah.
I have, an obvious Herbert against the Dolphins. I just think Herbert's going to be outstanding all year long. But I want to bring up someone that's not so obvious, and that's Baker Mayfield.
Ooh.
I got Baker on my green light. He would be my streamable QB option. First of all, I just think the Vikings defense is really bad. I also have Kirk on my green light list. So I think it's just going to be a high scoring, like two not very good defenses that, could be one of those games that you see in the 30s. And because of that, I have Baker and I have Kirk both just kind of putting up, 2-3 touchdowns for 300 yards. So, Baker's someone that's not rostered on many teams, but if you took a streamable approach, I'm going to look at that Vikings D to be giving up points all year. So that's another team that I'm looking at. I don't know. I just wanted to kind of throw out a pretty like dark horse green light pick, and that was Baker for me.
Yeah, I think that's a phenomenal pick. If you guys are out there and you drafted one quarterback and he's got a bad matchup this week, like if you drafted Daniel Jones and that's your only quarterback, but Baker's on the waiver wire and you have a spot that you could kind of pick him up and start him, like definitely consider that. Baker's definitely going to be slinging the ball with that Vikings defense. Very gettable.
Super flex leagues. I'd be very confident in having him as a QB2. And listen, so like at the grand scheme of things, like I think Evans probably gets his 1,000 yards or close. They're certainly going to be going for it. And I think Godwin has a decent year. That being said, I think the Bucs are really bad. So you're going to have games like this where Evans has a 100-yard game and 2 touchdown catches, or Godwin. You know what I mean? Like you're going to find those games where they pop off. It's just going to be hard to find. But this is one of those, week one matchups that I'd be looking at taking the over and think it's going to be a shootout. What do you think here, Shane?
Yeah, I mean, you guys remember I think one of the mocks we were doing this summer on one of the shows, when we were talking about Godwin and Evans and taking them, we were all kind of like impressed about how actually surprisingly Baker had looked during the preseason, how much better he looked than we were expecting. And, so we were kind of bumping up the value a little bit of both receivers. So yeah, I agree. I think, if you're going to play him, this is the matchup to play him in.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
What do you got for us, Shane?
So one of mine, I wanted to kind of go a little bit further down the list also, for those that maybe took 2 quarterbacks, and a lot of times this is one of those safe backups that people took, and that was Derek Carr facing the Titans. He's going to be at home against the Titans. So last year they gave up the most passing yards in the league to quarterbacks. So I think also this is like, if you want to play him, this is the week to play him before Michael Thomas gets hurt. So you got Michael Thomas, you've got Olave out there, you've got a full wide receiving room playing. I just think he comes out and it's a game where, I could easily see him putting up, 250, 275 and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I like that pick, man. That's a great stat. I mean, I didn't realize that the Titans gave up the most passing yards last year. So, I agree with that. I can get behind that. I don't know, Mike. What do you think?
You had a flu game last week. This is my flu game. So,
oh no,
I'm gonna pass on Derek Carr right now. I just got a wave of tingly eyes.
Yeah, somehow I got Mike sick through the microphone. Somehow,
crazy.
Somehow.
Yeah. So yeah, I like it. Who dat at home? You're gonna hear me say that a lot.
Yeah. I'll bring up one other guy I had a green light on is Jared Goff going against Kansas City. The first game tonight as this episode airs. Yeah. He plays tonight. He's going to need to put up a lot of points to keep up with this Kansas City offense, and I think he's capable of doing it. I mean, you saw what he did last year. So I would very, very much consider starting Goff in this matchup. I'd be pretty comfortable with that.
Yeah. Sweet. Honorable mention: Lamar Jackson at home against the Texans. I think that offense is going to come out and just like showcase what they've been working on. So I'll just hammer through. I have Lamar, Zay, and Andrews, all 3 of them. I don't think we really need to I don't want to hit on each of them, but I don't mean to spend much time there, but that's in Ravens offense comes in and Monken's just like, all right, these are my new toys and this is what we look like. And it's going to look really fucking good.
I'm so excited to watch them.
Yeah.
Like I've got so many shares of Ravens players this year between Flowers, Dobbins, Lamar, Andrews. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. All right. So let's jump into the running backs. Shane, why don't you go ahead and start us off with the red light running back you got? Who are you pumping the brakes on for this week?
So my first red light is Brees Hall and Dalvin Cook for a couple of reasons facing the Bills. Bills last year were top 5 in rushing yards allowed. Second, I think this is going to be like a feel out game. I mean, you can't overlook that both running backs have not played this preseason. Both are been coming off of different injuries. What is that going to look like for the share for both of them? And he may be working in Michael Carter even some. It's a little bit too much uncertainty for me to start one of them week 1.
Yeah, I actually have Brees as well. I actually bunched together a group of running backs, just running backs with injury concern. And Brees is, one of them. Brees, Javonte, I mean, even A-Chain and Kendre Miller, just guys that we aren't sure about.
Yeah.
You're going to be seeing a lot of Brees on my love list, but I agree. I need to see it before I buy in and on starting him. He's certainly a guy that I have on a lot of teams, and I drafted him because come week 3, 4, when he gets that confidence back and the Jets, maybe start to pick things up, I think he's potential league winner. But yeah, I think the Jets start slow as well. Rodgers kind of starts slow. It's just what he does a little bit. And the Jets are a completely new team about to play what I think is potentially the best team in the NFL. So yeah, I would be fading pretty much all the Jets.
Yeah. I have both of them on my list as well. I started to lean where Dalvin Cook I may consider starting him because of the coach coming out and saying that Brees Hall they're going to be very cautious about him. So it seems like Dalvin Cook will get the larger workload. And, we've seen what Dalvin Cook can do in the past. So, but yeah, I have them both initially on my list. I'm probably not going to play either one of them. But my main guy that I wanted to bring up is DeAndre Swift going against the Patriots in Foxborough. They're a fringe top 10 defense against the run. And I just haven't liked anything I've heard from this running back room out of Philly. Is it Kenneth Gainwell? How often is DeAndre Swift going to be used? Until I see what this situation looks like in the backfield, I'm probably not touching it. And against the Patriots, pretty good defense, I'm just kind of staying away. I don't know how you guys feel.
Yep. Feel the same way. They were, I think, 7th against last year in rushing yards allowed. I feel like that game could be a sneaky close game for some reason. Belichick scheming up his defense in week 1.
Yeah, he's going to expose Hurts.
He's going to do his hardest to make sure that happens. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's going to expose Hurts. I agree. It's going to be an ugly week 1 game. I disagree so I agree that I would stay away from Eagles running backs this game. I think you might see Swift look pretty good at times during this game to give you confidence moving forward. But in the sense of this just being one of those ugly, gritty games, I would stay away from both teams, to be honest. I didn't put Ramondre on my list, but I certainly thought about it because I don't think the Pats are going to look very good either. So like you said, one of those low-scoring Foxborough games that's just
yeah, and I really want to see how often they use Zeke too. Is Zeke strictly goal line, or is he going to be used somewhat? I need to see how that situation shakes out before I start either one of them either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I have Miles Sanders. I think that's going to be a low-scoring game, and the Panthers looked really bad at times on offense, so I think it's going to take some time. And Sanders hasn't played at all, but I think it's going to take some time for the Panthers to click, and some of those preseason games, they gave Bryce a good bit of time, and they just looked really bad. So I think we're going to see some games of Panthers defense keeping them in it, and their offense just like trying to figure things out. So I have Sanders on my red light list. I have Derrick Henry against the Saints, and I have Dameon Pierce at Ravens. So I don't know if you guys want to comment on any of those. Ravens, we talked about them. I think that they're just going to have a defense at home that's like reminds us of the old Ravens defenses at home. So if you guys want to highlight any of those three, jump on.
Yeah, it's funny. I kind of went back and forth on Sanders. I first thought of him as a green light just because of the matchup playing the Falcons, who gave up over 120 yards rushing last year. But when you sit out the whole preseason with an injury, it just makes me too nervous to start you week 1. So I had to pull him out.
Yeah, and the offense didn't look good. You know what I mean? Like they're going to have so many 3-and-outs, and like it's going to be hard for them to get going. And looking at the over-under, this is the second least scoring game according to Vegas of the week. So, I mean, it's going to be one of those just now that we're talking out loud, we've been saying this for quite a few games. Going to be one of those ugly week 1 feel it out type game. So.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Ryan, what do you got? Sanders, Henry, Pierce?
Yeah, those all make sense to me. I didn't have any of them on my list, but as you guys were talking about them, they all give me hesitation. Sanders not playing much in the preseason, Henry going against a good defense.
Good defense, and their O-line is just trash.
It's the worst.
And then you're going to have to go into
O-line in the league.
Yeah, super loud, super dome, but a very loud, rowdy, super loud, super dumb, super loud. Yeah. You know how it is there in New Orleans. Those guys are going to be fired up. It's going to be loud. I could see that game, like a lot of false starts on the Titans, and just, Vrabel getting pissed off and taking a little bit for Henry to get going. So,
yeah. All right. So for green lights, Mike, you made a good point. You're very bullish on the Ravens this week and kind of like their whole squad. So like in a really good matchup, green light, all Ravens. To piggyback off that and green light, all Redskins or Commanders. Sorry. The Antonio Gibson is on a green light for me. So is Dotson. So it's kind of like I didn't want to bring them up too much because we've already talked about this. Yeah. But you got playmakers going against Arizona. Start them. Green light.
I have Dotson as well on my list, and I also have Dobbins. I missed him when we were talking Ravens. Mr. J.K. Dubinsky.
Yeah.
So I think, like I said, that Ravens offense when they're looking good and scoring points, they're going to be fast, and I think they're going to all be startable. Like usually you don't see an entire offense in the top, 5, just because other players will snap. But I think that whole offense is good. When they look good, they're going to be scoring in the 40s, like 35, 42 points. So
yeah.
Dubinsky's in there for me as well.
Yeah, so just kind of these positive matchups were just the whole slate stardom. But the one guy I did want to mention is Rachaad White. If you drafted Rachaad White in the middle rounds, I'm definitely starting him. Mike mentioned it before. This Minnesota defense is going to be very gettable. And, Baker, when things go bad for Baker in the pocket, he's not going to look to run the ball. He's going to look to dump it off. And that's Rachaad White, one of the best pass-catching running backs in the league. I am starting Rachaad White on every lineup I have him in. I want a piece of that.
I have him as well on my list.
Mm-hmm.
Shane, you got any green lights?
Yeah, so I agree with you on the Washington call. Arizona was 5th worst in touchdowns allowed via run last year. And then Dobbins, I mean, come on, against Houston. They gave up over 170 yards a game last year. I mean, that is just ridiculous. So my other two that I had was, most people probably going to be starting him, but Aaron Jones.
He's on my list.
At the Bears. The Bears second worst against the rush last year. And I think just especially in the beginning of the year, I just really see Green Bay with Jordan Love leaning on the run more to try to help settle him in, break him in. I think it's going to be a lot of run, a lot of dump off passes for Jones, which is going to be good. So I think he has a good, safe, high floor. And then my second guy is who's some people may not be starting him, but is Isaiah Pacheco versus the Lions. Lions gave up the fourth most rushing touchdowns last year in the league. And they were, I think, 30th in rushing yards allowed. So defense is not good. I could see the Chiefs getting out to a lead, maybe in the second half, leaning on Pacheco a little more. I'm not as concerned that he's missed preseason time because it was a hand, it wasn't a lower body injury. So it's not as concerning to me that he missed preseason action. So I think he could be a guy to plug in also.
Was that his right or was that his left or right hand? Because could be concerning a little bit if he wasn't able to practice all off season.
All right.
All right, let's reel it back in. So
that was a good point there, Shane.
Pacheco, for me, I'm a little bit hesitant. I mean, so you just mentioned two guys who I've been hammering away at. They're like Aaron Jones. I've loved that narrative that he's going to be counted on quite a bit, especially early on. But against the Bears team that you mentioned was so bad and against the run, I think the Bears are going to be I think they're going to give up points, right? So, I think him and Love. I mean, I have the Packers winning that game, and I think Love is going to or Jones. Sorry, the flu game I've been talking about has my brain in scrambles. Oh yeah, but Jones for me, he's definitely a guy that's going to carry, be that veteran presence, kind of help them calm down until they get. Love is I think Love will eventually instill confidence as this is my team and this is my offense. So, but until that happens, it's going to be a lot of Jones. Mm-hmm. And then Pacheco, the narrative there that I've been kind of preaching is I think that a lot of the public remembers the playoffs and the Super Bowl and then just kind of assume that he's going to be the lead back there, which I think he'll be a lead back. I just don't know that his production split will be reflective as a lead back. Like I could see, I don't know who it's going to be, Clyde, Jarek. At this point, I doubt Deneric Prince, but until I see Pacheco run away with it this year, I just need to see it. But your point against playing the Lions and how they give up so many rushing touchdowns. Well, Mahomes, when he gets in the, when he gets 10 and when he gets first and goal, he pounds the ball as well. So I think it's like one and a half rushing touchdowns per game for Chiefs running backs under Mahomes. So, this would be a matchup that I would be very comfortable with Pacheco, but anyways.
Yeah, I'm rooting for Pacheco. I would like to see him kind of run away with this job and get the bulk of the carries, the goal line work, early down work. I still think McKinnon is going to be involved in the passing game, and I'm curious to see how much Clyde is involved. But I'm looking forward to Pacheco being the guy there. So I don't fully trust it.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if the Chiefs offense is just going to ever have like a guy at running back, right? Like I think Mahomes just likes to show you different looks, and I don't know. Anyways, we don't have to keep hammering that home too much.
So here's the use case scenario for you guys. Just what I was thinking about it. Would you start him over the guys we just talked about, Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall?
Yes, 100%.
To me, that's the use case where I'm thinking where you drafted them after those guys, after Breece Hall, but maybe plug him in for Breece Hall this week.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And this is a great segue. Well, way to bring that up. I have my last guy as a green light is Jamal Williams against the Titans at home. I just think like right now it's his backfield and he has zero competition. And he's a good running back, and that's a good offense to be a good running back in. So I could see, Carr having a good game. I just see the Saints winning that game, and it being Jamal's entire backfield, he's gonna have a pretty good game, and that's why you drafted him, is to have him for the first 3 games without Kamara. Kendre's banged up, and Titans at home. He's gonna show out for me.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. My last guy for green light is Jahmyr Gibbs. I think, from what we've heard, the coaches come out with that cryptic comment about you guys don't know how we're going to use Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, how you're going to have him throw the ball. What the hell's going on? But they are devising schemes for this kid. And, this is a matchup where they're going to need him to be the playmaker that he is. And I think they're going to get him involved early in offense. So if you drafted Gibbs, obviously in the 3rd round or 4th round, wherever you got him, you're probably starting him anyway, but feel very comfortable putting Gibbs in your lineup.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. I mean, I think that Lions offense is going to need someone like him to step up and produce pretty heavily. So I think that's exciting for Gibbs owners. I personally don't have any shares of him just because of how high he's going, and I don't like to take that risk. But, whether it's him or Laporta stepping up in a very big way, probably both of them, to be honest. What are they calling a Sammy ball game? But, yeah, we'll see what happens. I think that's going to be a very telling game. If the Lions offense is going to be good, they got to come out and score points against the Chiefs in Arrowhead. It'll show a lot of maturity on their end and who they are as a team this year to go against one of the big dogs on opening night and see if they can actually perform in that spotlight. So huge game for the Lions, huge games for Lions fans. Their fans have been talking a lot of shit. And I kind of secretly, as a Bears fan, I kind of want to see the Chiefs just shit all over them and be able to punch back at the Lions fans and be like, you are who we thought you were. But yeah, we'll see. I like good football, so I'm excited.
Yeah. Mike, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with red light wide receiver? Who do you got on your list for wide receiver?
I got Devontae Adams to kind of pair him with that Jimmy G pick. I just think going to Denver week 1 on an offense that probably hasn't practiced much at all together, and then you got Patrick Surtain, who's just an absolute hawk beast. I think it could be pretty difficult for the entire Raiders offense, but Adams seems like he's a little frustrated as is. So if Jimmy can't get him the ball and he's just getting followed by Surtain all game, that could kind of just snowball and be one of those quicksand type games for Devontae.
Yeah, Devontae's so good. It's hard to imagine that anybody really stops him, but Surtain is definitely good enough to stop him, especially with that offense struggling early. So I can get behind that for sure.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily stopping him as much as just the offense not having the chemistry you would expect week 1. Devontae's so good. Well, he's also had Aaron Rodgers to, there's never been an issue with going an entire offseason. Your number 1 running back held out all year, and Devontae's openly been expressing his frustration, and there's already been trade rumors you can be the best player, you can be the best receiver in the NFL, but when things are a little rocky like that, performance may follow. And then you just add in how good Denver's defense is. So Jimmy G's not Aaron Rodgers. Jimmy G's kind of Derek Carr, but again, Jimmy G has been in offenses that have been extremely stable. He's never walked into a situation where it's like, fuck, I got to get this together. So that'll be interesting as well, super early on. I don't know. Everything together is just gives me the ick. That's all I got to say.
They could, I mean, don't you guys, I could see a world where they are sneakily the second worst team in the NFL this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Preseason I had, or a while back in preseason, I had Cardinals, Bucks, Redskins, and I've walked back on the Redskins a little bit. I think they're going to, maybe win 6 games, something along those lines. But I think Raiders were another team that, especially because of all the concern and all the issues going on, it's like, are we going to put it together, or is McDaniels getting fired? What's going on here?
Yeah. Shane, what about you? What do you got for red light wide receivers?
So my first one is Gabe Davis at the Jets. Yeah. So, he's been a guy I've been on this summer, but, it's hard to ignore the data there. So, one, the Jets were top 5 in yards allowed and touchdowns allowed last year to receivers. And then his performances last year, like he was wide receiver 40 and 66, I believe, when he faced the Jets.
Yeah, it was rough.
It was a rough 2 games he had for them. It feels like, I think, it feels to me a little bit more, it's going to be more of a Kincaid game that night and targeting him and the tight ends, because the Jets were not very good against tight ends last year. So it's hard for me to ignore that data. So that's my first one. Second one is Drake London playing the Panthers. So one, I think, he gets that shadow coverage from J.C. Horn, who's a good cornerback. And then 2, same thing. Last year, he was like wide receiver 58 and wide receiver 30 against them. So not a strong pass against them. And then 3rd, I just don't know how much they're going to need to throw the ball, honestly, to beat the Panthers on Sunday.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. My red light wide receiver I have is Hollywood Brown. I'm touching on this matchup once again. They just came out and said that Clayton Tune might start week 1. Like, who's playing quarterback for this Arizona team? Whoever it is, I'm just not trusting this Washington defense, top 10 defense. So I'm staying away from Arizona receiver until I see Clayton Tune come out and actually is able to get Hollywood the ball. Like I like Hollywood season long. I think he's going to be the guy to own there and the guy to play there. But until I see any viable production coming from a quarterback, I'm staying away.
Yeah, Juju. Add Juju to that list for me. Eagles. I don't think either offense is going to really do much, and I think Juju sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
No, you're just very unfiltered with your Juju.
Make sure you say it twice. You have to say it twice.
Yeah.
I can proudly say I have not drafted a single Patriots receiving option this whole summer.
Same.
Yeah. I think the only one I drafted late would be Mike Gesicki. That's it. All right. Well, I got another red light wide receiver, Michael Pittman, going against Jacksonville. Just basically, until I see Anthony Richardson throw the ball well and for the entire length of the game, I am not starting Michael Pittman at all. And then my last one would be Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison with the Minnesota Vikings. I just don't know how often he's going to be on the field, if he's only going to play during 3 wide receiver sets, how this is going to be. I think KJ Osborne's going to be involved more than people think. So I want to see what happens there with this Minnesota receiving core before I start Jordan Addison. I don't know how you guys feel about those two.
I agree with Richardson. Although you said he doesn't look good throwing the ball, haven't you seen when he jumps and throws it 70 yards with no defenders on him, and he hits the coach right in the chest?
Man, he is so athletic.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I think it's going to be a surprise anytime you see him have over 50% completion percentage. And Pittman's such a talented guy. It's a shame that's wasted in Indy. But yeah, I'm on board with that. Addison, I don't know. I probably I think he's got a good role. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. I got Hawkinson on my green light for tight ends. I do agree with you that I want to see how things play out there with the Vikings receivers, but for me, it wouldn't be a red light as much as just like whatever you draft. Well, whatever the reason for you drafting Addison, just go with that. So to me, I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. If you drafted him to start in your flex, start him in your flex. I mean, this will be a high scoring game, but yeah, I mean, I agree that like that offense, I think they need to answer some questions before feeling very confident. So I agree with that. Yeah, are we good on red lights?
Yep.
I'm good. You guys touched them all.
Yep.
How about green lights? Shane, what do you got for wide receiver green lights?
Okay, I'm just to hammer what you guys said earlier. I like the Godwin Evans calls. I love the Dotson calls. Those are three guys. So two guys that I have maybe a little bit under the radar. So one, I think Cortland Sutton is a sneaky start this week. The Raiders were the fourth worst passing yards allowed defense last year. There's going to be no Jerry Jeudy. In the past, he has performed well when Judy's been absent. I think if you're going to start him, and this is a guy you can get very late in your drafts, so plug him in maybe into your wide receiver 3 spot. This is the week to do it against the Raiders. And the second is Mike Williams versus Miami. I was a little surprised when I saw this stat that they were, in the bottom 5 for passing yards allowed last year. And obviously there's no Jalen Ramsey playing for them. I just think he's been a little bit overlooked with the preseason love for Quentin Johnson, the rookie. But, now they've come out and said that Quentin Johnson is not even going to be playing or starting the year off in 3 wide receiver sets and their 11 personnel sets. So I think Mike Williams is a guy that's kind of going to be targeted pretty heavily in a game that should be high scoring shootout type of game.
Yeah, that was my number one. We already mentioned literally all of my wide receivers. Dotson, Mike Williams, and Zay. I agree with Mike Williams. I think his talent is unquestioned. And then I think he's going to be opened up a little bit more this year. So if he can stay healthy, he should have a massive year. I mean, I don't really have anything else to add besides you've already heard me say I'm most excited about Dolphins Chargers this entire week, and I had Herbert on my love list. So because of that, I think the stack that I would be targeting is Herbert and Mike Williams in DFS lineups and anywhere you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good move. Again, we've talked about everybody on my list as well. The only other people that I had was the Evans Godwin train. With this Tampa Bay, I feel like Evans could be a sneaky good start. Godwin as well in PPR formats. Because we all know PPR is standard. Everybody should be playing PPR.
Yeah.
And if you're not, what are you doing? But Evans and Godwin, I would definitely consider starting them this week against Minnesota.
Yeah, I like that. I do have 2 others on my list. Amon-Ra. So I think if the Lions are going to keep up with that Chiefs team, Amon-Ra is going to have 15 catches. They're just going to lean on him heavily. And I mean, I think he's going to have an awesome year. I know Shane had him on his My Guys list. And this would be one of those games that if you drafted Amon-Ra, you should be very happy. Not only because you're heavily invested in the first game of the season on Thursday night when every single person and their mother is going to be watching, but he should come out and get, a million targets and have a really good game. So, love list, Amon-Ra.
Yeah, massive game in store.
Shane, what do you got? You got anything to add there? Because I know he's your guy. Like,
No, I think, yeah. I mean, just expect that touchdown mark to at least, I would say, get back up to 10. I mean, I think I said it on your guys' show one time earlier, 6 or 7 times he was tackled inside the 5-yard line. So, I expect that touchdown total to jump up from, I think it was 5 last year to 10 at least this year.
Yep.
All right, well, let's dive into tight ends. I'll start with a red light tight end. It's Dalton Schultz. I like Dalton Schultz this year, but I just don't know how efficient CJ Stroud is going to be against this Baltimore defense. You'll see a similarity in everything we've talked about today with these good matchups and bad matchups. It kind of correlates with a lot of different positions on the field, but Dalton Schultz is someone who I'm just kind of staying away from this week until I see, I think there's potential that he's the number one target for Stroud moving into the rest of the season. So until I see that in a more trusted way, I'm staying away from Schultz. I don't know. What do you guys got?
Yeah, I agree. Like going into the year, I thought, he's going to be the number one target for that team. I thought when watching the preseason games, I kind of expected to see what we saw in that Giants game on that one drive they had with Waller when they targeted him so much, but I just never really saw it, or they didn't seem to click as much. So I kind of backed off of Schultz, being that number one target and kind of weekly streaming option.
Yeah.
I was going to say something, but I got that tingly thing going on.
Shane, why don't you give us another red light tight end?
Okay, so one would be Chig versus for Tennessee versus New Orleans.
I love that. I didn't even think of it.
Yeah, so New Orleans, this one surprised me too when I saw this. They were top 3 in both yards and touchdowns allowed to tight ends last year. I mean, they were tough against them. So going into New Orleans, facing that defense, I think I haven't seen it for sure, but there's still, I think, a good possibility that Treylon Burks plays. So if he plays, that takes away even more targets. So I think a lot of people maybe were drafting him late to possibly be their starter, and I'd be a little nervous this week.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah, I didn't think about that as either.
Yeah, I love that Chig. I don't know why I didn't think about Chig to add him on there, but I completely agree. Man, one sec. Take it over, Ryan.
It's all right, Mike. You'll get through it. Another red light I have is surprisingly, it's Cole Kmet.
Yes,
I love Cole Kmet. I love everything about him, but this matchup scares me a little bit.
Tell us what you love about him, Ryan. Tell us everything. Tell us everything you love about him.
Everything I love about Cole Kmet, man. The guy is just a baller. Okay. No, but anyway, in all seriousness, the Packers have the best defense in the division. I'm willing to admit that. And I want to see this offense kind of develop, and before I see that, I'm just not really starting him. If I have other options, I'm definitely going elsewhere, as much as it pains me to say that.
No, totally agree. They were the Packers' third toughest against tight ends last year. He had one of his games last year was tight end 60 versus them. So, yeah.
But it was a great blocker that game. We paid him $60 million.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm just going to group these guys together. I had Mayer and Musgrave. I mean, I'm not one of these like rookie tight end guys that just raves about that because you know how I felt about Kincaid. And I actually think Musgrave's going to be a good tight end for the Packers. But to kind of reflect what Shane said earlier, I see this being an Aaron Jones game and them just beating the Bears badly on the run. You're going to see some, Watson. I think maybe Jaden Reed has some catches too, but I think Musgrave will have a slow start. Mayer, you've heard me talk about the Raiders in that game, but also I think he may have a little bit rougher of a season than than that Laporta, Musgrave, and Kincaid list. So those two rookie tight ends, and then the other guy I have is Dallas Goedert. We talked about that Pats Eagles game just being kind of ugly, and I do like Goddard. I think you can count on him for just having a crazy level of consistency at the tight end position. I just don't think you see him in the end zone, and I don't think you see much more than like 3 catches for him this game.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that rookie tight ends take. I have much more confidence in those other guys than Mayer. So I don't know, Shane, what do you think about Mayer?
Yeah, it's hard for me to, outside of Kincaid or Laporta, it's going to be hard for me to trust starting a rookie tight end this week 1. I think those two are a little bit different in their makeup and in their opportunity they're going to have for their teams. But besides them, I would stay away.
Okay. All right, well, let's jump in. Do you guys have any more red light tight ends, or you want to just jump into the green light? We're
That's
good?
it for me.
All right. One green light tight end that I have on my list it's generally a tough matchup, but it's Higbee against Seattle. It's a tough matchup for tight ends, but if Cooper Kupp doesn't play, Higbee is going to be very much involved and just has to have a good game if the Rams are going to stay in this game at all whatsoever. So I'd be willing, as long as Cooper Kupp isn't playing, which it looks like that way, I'd be willing to start Tyler Higbee. I don't know how you guys feel about that one.
Yeah, I love it. Like, he was a top 10 tight end last year. He finished the year and part of that was because of the action that Kupp missed. He kind of became that target person in that offense. So Kupp's not playing this week. He should see plenty of targets.
Yeah, I like that. I don't have much else to add. I think he's going to be. I actually want to ask this, Shane. How long do you think Kupp's going to be out? I asked Ryan the other day, yesterday. Right now with the information we have, when do you think Kupp starts his first game?
I'm guessing 3 weeks. So I think it's going to be. My guess is if they thought it was going to be more than that, they would go ahead and put him on the IR.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at Keenan Allen's injury last year, which was similar, and he was around that 3 to 4 games missed point. So I think that's
what this is 3. So you think his first starts week 4 or week 3?
Week 4.
Okay. Yeah, that's honestly kind of worst case scenario for me. Because he's not on the pup, and you're basically saying he's going to walk all the way up to that week 4. So, I think Higbee, just to reel us back in, I think Higbee's he's going to benefit the most, and you're going to see him catch 7 balls a game while Kupp's out. So, I like that.
Yeah. You guys, who do you guys got for your green light?
Yeah. So. I have a bunch of guys that it kind of ties into what we've been saying this entire episode. I mentioned Hawkinson earlier. I think the Vikings are going to win this game, and in order to do so, they're going to score a lot. And I think Hawkinson's going to be a big part of that. Mark Andrews, already mentioned him. And then a dark horse that you didn't mention specifically, but someone that I would look towards as a streamable option this week is Cole Turner. I think he's an awesome tight end for the Redskins, super talented, and I could see him having a very good game, catching a touchdown, 5 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown, something like that. So not really even touchdown dependent. If you're in a PPR league, that's 11 points at 5 and 60. So I like Cole Turner. I think he's going to have some sneaky good games this year. And with Logan Thomas not projected to start, you can see him kind of make a name for himself week 1.
Yeah, that's definitely a dark horse. Absolutely. I think that's a great reasoning behind that. And you could definitely see him emerge. And
he's he has not been talked about much. I mean, you can really get into the weeds and hear his name on Fantasy. It's like there's some guys that are big on him in terms of fantasy analysts, but he is a legitimate receiving option. Like he looks good catching the ball. So if you haven't seen any Cole Turner, go ahead and try to dig up a highlight tape because you could be hearing his name here pretty early on this season.
Yeah, possibly next week on our Hitchhikers episode.
Oh. But yeah, and then I'll just hammer through mine real quick. Shane mentioned his quarterback, Juwan Johnson. I think he's going to have a really good year. He's going to catch a lot of touchdowns, so I could see him kind of kicking off the season with one of those.
Yeah. So Juwan Johnson was the top of my list. I had on mine too. I've been saying all summer it was a good year to wait on tight ends, I believe, to draft late if you weren't going to take one of the top guys. So like I love Juwan Johnson this week. Tennessee gave up the most yards to tight ends last year. It's one of the reasons I liked Derek Carr in this matchup, and I think Johnson should be set up to have a good game. I think you might see, especially this week one, he's going to be out there more. We might see less of the Taysom Hill gadgety putting him in at tight end spot plays.
Yeah, I love it. So if for any DFS players out there, Derek Carr, Juwan Johnson could be an interesting stack for you. Probably not very heavily owned. And if Juwan can somehow, catch you 2 touchdowns this week, you're going to be asking Shane for his home address and sending him some thank you gifts.
Yeah.
Well, here's another guy I want to talk about and specifically talk to you, Shane. I have him on my list, and I just want to hear what your thoughts are. I had him really at the end, but I just want to hear more so what your breakdown is on him, and that's Jake Ferguson.
Yep. So I have taken him some when I've waited till late. I've taken him. So, Dak, I think he had like a 24% target share to tight ends where he targeted tight ends last year. He loves targeting that position. Dallas has shown they know how to develop that position over the years. And I think Ferguson is the next in line there. I obviously watch all of the preseason games. I read all the practice reports. He just has that feel at the position of where to sit down in zones and how to get in those open spaces. That's going to be really beneficial. He's a guy that I think could easily each week, catch 4 to 5 passes.
Are you willing to start him this week?
I would over when you're looking at some of those streaming options, I would. So like I would put him in over Cole Kmet. I'd put him over Chig. Yep. There's some of the guys that I would start him over that I think. Yeah, Schultz for sure. Yep.
Okay, interesting. All right.
Yeah, so sorry, Rye. I just think staying on Ferguson, like I think the Cowboys win that game, and I think I can just see like him being one of those sneaky picks to score a touchdown. I don't know. Some people like playing those first player to score a touchdown in the game bets, and I could see like a dark horse for that being a Jake Ferguson. So I don't know. I just like him as someone that he's going to be on the waiver wire. And if you're sitting there with a bad matchup tight end, he would be certainly worth a look. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts being a Cowboys guy.
I think come Sunday night, we may at the end of the night see like a 4 for 55 or 60 game and maybe a touchdown.
Yep.
So you're looking at, that could easily be just without the touchdown, a top 12 tight end for the week.
Definitely. All right. So I know we talked about Kincaid and Laporta. Those are definitely green lights for all of us. But someone else I don't think we mentioned is Greg Dulcich.
I have him on my list.
Do you? Yeah. I'm starting Dulcich, man. With Judy being out, I think Dulcich is going to be involved early and often. Sean Payton was very excited about getting him involved in the scheme. early on this preseason, and I'm just excited for Greg Dulcich this season. And if I have him on my team, he's in my lineup.
Yeah. So speaking of DFS, actually, I want to first say, don't take my DFS advice because I've never really had success.
This is not a DFS podcast.
Really played it at all. But to me, like the way that my dumb brain works, maybe it's not as dumb as I give myself credit for, but Dulcich would be someone that I would imagine has low ownership just because of how I've seen his ADP drop, right? Like you've seen him more than anyone be in the tight end space, be a guy that's just fallen far. So I think he was at one point like tight end 11, and then he was at least on Underdog, he was maybe like in the 20s, like 18 to 20 range. So that's a pretty significant fall for him. And it was that whole Troutman narrative. But we've heard Peyton already say like he's going to get very creative with Dulcich. He's a mismatch everywhere on the field. So I could just see week one, Peyton's first game, Dulcich coming out and kind of showing that unicorn, I believe is what they called him. So he would be a guy that I think you can get sneaky, plug into a DFS lineup and get some low ownership, high ceiling type player.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my last guy on my list. Did you guys have any other green lights you want to mention?
No, we hit him.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
We talked about a solid amount of players. So let's just go through and do a quick recap. Shane, we'll start with you. Just kind of hammer through your list.
Yeah. So quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr, running backs, Pacheco, Aaron Jones, receivers was Sutton, Mike Williams, and then tight ends I had Juwan Johnson, Kincaid for green light.
Okay. My green lights, Sam Howell, Jared Goff, Antonio Gibson, Rashad White, and then for wide receivers, Jahan Dotson, Evans, and Godwin. And then for tight ends, it's Higbee, Dulcich, and the Kincaid-Laporta combo there.
So let's go ahead. Green lights, Herbert, Josh Herbert,
Nice play.
Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield. I mean, you heard me talk about Lamar, so let's just say Ravens all the way through, Dobbins, Lamar, Dobbins, Zay, and Andrews. But running backs, I also co-sign Aaron Jones. He's at the top of my list. Jamal Williams, Rashad White. Wide receivers, Dotson, Mike Williams, Zay. Throw Amon-Ra in there as well. I think Mims could be a sneaky pick as a dart throw with Judy out and how much Peyton likes him. Hawkinson, Dulcich, sneaky picks there would be Turner, Juwan Johnson, Jake Ferguson. So those are my green lights.
All right. Shane, go ahead with your red lights.
Red lights, Deshaun Watson, Matthew Stafford at quarterback. Running backs, the Jets combo, Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, Swift at the Patriots. Wide receivers, Drake London, Gabe Davis. And then tight ends was Cole Kmet and Chig.
Yeah. So I got for my red lights, Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson, the Breece Hall, Dalvin Cook, and then DeAndre Swift. For wide receivers, Hollywood Brown, Michael Pittman, Jordan Addison, and tight ends, Cole Kmet and Dalton Schultz. For me, red lights.
It's a Chicago-based podcast with Cole Kmet sitting on the red light.
What are you gonna do?
I got Purdy, Richardson, Garoppolo, running backs, Miles Sanders, Derrick Henry, Dameon Pierce, and that like injury question mark, I guess, grouping of Javonte, Breece, maybe even A-Chain and Kendre Miller. Wide receivers, Devonta Adams, Juju. Make sure you say his name twice. and then tight ends Goddard, and the rookies in Mayer and Musgrave. So yeah, good thing we didn't release our underdog exposure yet, because Shane just decided to red light all of our highest owned players. No, I'm kidding. We'll Deshaun definitely is on that list, but we have some ownership in Brees too. But no, I'm just kidding. We are going to release our underdog exposure hopefully here today, this afternoon. So keep an eye out for that. Shane, as always, it's been a pleasure, and that was a great first episode of Red Light Green Light. One thing I will say, I'm going to release a Substack article with everything. So I don't know when you guys are note-taking for this episode every week, if you can kind of just like bullet things out or just jot down a note or two, and I can compile it into like a well-organized newsletter, and we'll send it out Thursday mornings with the episode. So yeah, awesome first episode, guys. I'm so excited for the fucking season. Like, I think we're gonna have this is gonna be one of the favorites that people look forward to every week. We have the added dynamic of Shane, and just like people want to know, what do we do? Like, especially in redraft leagues, people like to take a stance on their players, and if they hear one of these deep flyers on our green light list instead of a Dalton Schultz, well, projections in the app probably tell them to take Schultz, but that could be a sneaky roster move to make that could end up in a win for these teams. So that's kind of my long-winded outro.
Yeah, great analysis, Mike. Yeah, Shane, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Keep going with that Celsius ambush. We're gonna get them eventually, right? One way or another.
I do want to say, my buddy Tony Costello with Rule 1 Proteins, I was talking to him this morning. I told him that we made him an official protein sponsor of the podcast, and he texted me during this episode and said, of course, Rule 1 can be your official sponsor. So I'm gonna have to follow up on that text message and see what can happen.
All right,
with that. So more to come.
Yes, thank you. Awesome.
Until we figure that out, roadies, you are only drinking Rule 1 protein.
We will blast that out everywhere. But all right, everybody, thank you for joining us on another episode of the Fantasy Road Show. Stay tuned and have fun watching this week 1 action. And Shane, what should everybody do?
Buckle up.